Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Can anyone send me the chapter number
Good morning, ma'am.
PDF? Can anyone of you send me the PDF of chapter number 3 of history?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Vita. Good morning. Could you please send me the PDF of chapter 3 of history? Any one of you?
Good morning, ma'am. Ma'am, a PDF.
Yeah, PDF of chapter 3.
Okay.
So you are sending, Govind?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Vansh. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Vansh.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Okay, 7A, oh, sorry, 8. 8A and B. Chapter 2 of history is over in both the classes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right? Question answers done, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, we have discussed.
Only
Yes,
detail.
ma'am.
Oh,
Ma'am, I
why?
have written
Yes,
all
ma'am.
the question answers and extract as well in the copy.
So in the meanwhile, let's discuss the detailed one. In the meantime, Govind is sending me the question answers. Yes, Vidushi, tell us the answer of question number 1 of...
Ma'am, just
Ma'am, chapter 2 question answers.
No, don't send. I think we have discussed them as well. 8A.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am, we have discussed.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We have. So, ma'am, we can continue writing.
And kids, you have to do extract based as well. Extract
I'm done.
are supposed to be done by you only.
Ma'am, we can write in this period.
Ma'am, can we continue writing?
Yeah, you can.
Morning, ma'am.
You can continue writing. Good morning.
Ma'am, tomorrow can we submit
So,
our
ma'am, I have to
copies?
send you.
You send me a PDF of chapter 3, beta Govind.
Okay, ma'am.
So I think chapter 2, 3 is ruling the countryside, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Abhi tak we have read that in the first chapter, so we read about what is going on in the period, that period. Then we read in the second chapter that how Britishers came to India and how they established themselves in India. Right, kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? How
Yes,
they
ma'am.
came to India, how they started
Yes,
conquering the territories in India, how they established themselves in India, and not only themselves, and how did they even establish the administration of India. What were the policies they used to, you can say, what were the policies they used to conquer the various states, annex them, etc., etc. So chapter 2 was a pretty lengthy and nice chapter, which we read and learned happily. We learned it nicely.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
to go with
Can
chapter
I switch
number
off my
3.
camera? Ma'am, it is having a glitch.
You can. So in the third chapter, we will be reading that how these, what do we call it? How these Britishers, once they established themselves in India, how did they rule the Indians? How did they establish their rule in the countryside? Countryside refers to what, Vansh?
I'm countryside, when the side of the country. Then the ending side.
Way too bad. Can anyone tell me what do we mean by countryside? I would have told you hundreds of times this. Hundreds of times I have told you this. What's the meaning of countryside, children?
Ma'am, I think in the country.
Are you out of your minds?
And rural area?
Yes.
Ma'am, the land.
Right?
The land or rural.
Yeah, well done, Vahid. Countryside refers to the rural area, the villages. Okay. Can you please tell me what was the question? What? Ma'am, what did you ask the last question? Like, I was asking what do you mean by countryside? I was asking now the meaning of countryside. Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, it's a land that's ruled, that's a ruling area, like a land and a secondary of a rural area. Yeah. Yes, how much time are you going to take, Govind?
Please wait for a bit.
I hope all of you have completed your work. Will you be able to submit with the notebooks tomorrow? Class 8B.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Why no?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, they
Why?
are,
Why? No, 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 wait a minute. Why no, Gaurav?
ma'am, we can submit it day after tomorrow.
No, why day after tomorrow? Okay, I know you have your test tomorrow, right? But it has been a week. Last
Yes.
Tuesday we completed the chapter, Gaurav. Last Tuesday.
Ma'am, I can submit my notebook tomorrow.
How many of your everybody's work is completed?
Yes, ma'am.
Whose work
Yes,
is not
ma'am.
completed? Very good, Ihan. 8B I'm speaking of. 8B whose work is not completed.
Ma'am, my completed.
Ma'am, I also completed.
Well done, Wahid. Well done. See, Gaurav, if they could do it, why couldn't you do it? And this happens, bache. Then you lag behind, you don't complete your work in time, and then your work remains incomplete. This is not done. Whenever the thing has been discussed, you're supposed to do it in the class as well. You have plenty of time in the classes too.
Sorry, ma'am. I'll do it tomorrow.
Don't do it today now. Tomorrow is your test. I am giving you 1 day relief. After your test tomorrow, you can submit it day after tomorrow. Right? And the ones who have come,
Should I send this?
I'll submit the work tomorrow.
Ma'am, the GK test was too easy.
Oh, tomorrow is GK test.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you can complete
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
Wow, Gaurav, tomorrow is GK test. Then
Now
only
you
you
can submit
complete
the
it.
tomorrow. Now you can submit.
And one of the most easiest tests.
Ma'am, we are going to read this
Fine.
chapter.
Yeah, thank you, Govind. Today we're going to start with ruling the countryside, the new chapter of history, chapter number 3. Right, children? So in this chapter, we're going to read that how the Britishers have, after establishing themselves in the administration of the country, how the Britishers have decided to rule the country. Whether they ruled it nicely or not, were the people happy with it or not, whatever the scenario, we are going to read it all in this chapter. Right? So on 12th of August 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed East India Company as a Diwan of Bengal. Right? In which year? 1765.
No,
Before, yeah. Right before this year, in which year Battle of Buxar was fought?
Ma'am, 17.
1757.
Ansh, that was Battle of Plassey.
1764.
1764.
1764.
Exactly. Battle of Buxar was fought in 1764. And it was this battle only in which the Britishers got the Diwani rights of which states?
Awadh and Bengal.
Awadh and Bengal.
Bengal and Bihar. Awadh,
Yeah.
Bengal and Bihar. Right.
Yes.
So that is what. In 1764, the battle took place. And by 1765, they signed the treaty and all. And that is when Abhitak, they did not have these Diwani rights. Diwani rights means the right to collect revenue. Till then, they did not have the right to collect revenue in Bengal, the Britishers. But after the Battle of Buxar, they got this right to collect the taxes, right? They were officially appointed as the Diwan of the Bengal. Now, as a Diwan, the company became the chief financial administrator of the territory under its control. So, whichever area they are controlling, they became the chief financial administrator. Like, all the finances would be in their hand, in their control. And it had to plan for administering the land and organizing the revenue resources. They will administer the land. They will plan that how the revenue sources are to be used. This had to be done in a way that could yield enough revenue for the to meet the growing expense of the company. And this they would be doing in such a manner कि जिससे उनकी company के जो भी expenses थे, they were trying to meet all the expenses of their country by the revenue paid by our people. It was like, for example, we are paying taxes today as well, but we are paying those taxes for our development, right? To get better roads, to get better food, to get everything which we deemed electricity, water, etc. But imagine the government using those taxes to fund its trade only, and we are suffering. Right? We are not getting roads, not getting enough food, etc. So that is what started happening with the people of Bengal once the Britishers got the Diwani rights. Okay. A trading company had also ensured that it could buy all the products it needed and sell it what it wanted. But there were some restrictions on the trading company that they could trade in particular items. The rulers did not allow them to trade in particular items. They were very frustrated with that. But once they became the financial advisor, once they became the divan, they did as they please. जो उन्हें पसंद आता था वो करते, जिन चीज में ट्रेड करते they used to trade in that particular thing. In this chapter, we'll see that how the company came to colonize the countryside, organize the revenue resources, and redefine the rights of people and produce the crops that wanted. Right? Is it clear till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts, anyone?
No, ma'am.
Oh, ma'am.
Fine. Let's read the revenue for the company. Yes, Vidushi, read.
Ma'am, revenue for the company too.
Yes.
The company saw land revenue as a major source of income. To build the resources of the state, efforts were made to impose a regular state system of land revenue, increase in revenue rates, and expand area under cultivation. Before 1865, the company was purchasing goods in India by paying in gold and silver imported from Britain. Now the revenue collected in Bengal could finance the purchase of goods for export.
Now what happened?
But
See, wait a minute. The company saw land revenue as a major source of income, and it was indeed a major source of income for the kings back then, right? What was a major source of income?
In tax.
Ma'am,
Land tax, right? The land right? Now to build the
Land
resource
revenue.
of the state, अपनी state के resource को build करने के लिए, they made efforts to impose a regular system of land revenue. चाहते थे कि like regular system हो. They like systematic work. They wanted the revenue could be collected in a regular system. Like a particular amount could be fixed. People should be appointed to collect it. Something is to be done. So by 1865, and what they do is they impose a regular system of collecting revenues, increase the revenue rates, and expanded area under cultivation. जितने ज़्यादा area पे cultivation करा सकते थे वो किया, revenue rates भी बढ़ा दिए, right? और strict policy भी लगा दी. Before 1865, the company now was purchasing goods in India by paying gold and import from Britain. 1765 से पहले तक जब वो दीवान थे उससे पहले तक they used to get gold or silver from Britain and they used to pay us to get the goods in return. But now the revenue collected in Bengal was being financed for the purchases of the Britishers. Britishers अपने goods purchase करते थे हमारे पैसे से. Okay. Who will read next?
Ma'am,
Ma'am, can I rejoin?
Yes, Prableen.
Ma'am, can I rejoin?
Yes, you
Ma'am,
can.
can I read?
Yes, Prableen was reading.
But due to harsh conditions, the Bengal economy was facing a deep crisis. Artisans were deserting villages since they were being forced to sell their produce to the company at low prices. Peasants were unable to pay the dues that were being demanded from them. Artisanal production was in decline, and agricultural cultivation showed signs of collapse. Then, in 1770, a terrible famine killed 10 million people in Bengal. About 1/3 of the population was wiped out.
Thank you.
The need.
Wait. Okay. So as Prableen read and told us that because of the harsh conditions, like जो भी harsh conditions face करनी पड़ी थी लोगों को बंगाल में, right? So people started flooding from Bengal. They started fleeing from there, started going away from there. So people were like the people started deserting villages since they were forced to sell their produce to the company at low prices. Company उनको force करती थी कि अपना सामान हमें सस्ते में बेचो. इसलिए लोगों ने वहां से भागने शुरू कर दिया. Started running away from that area. And peasants were unable to pay the dues that were being demanded from them. जितना टैक्स उनसे डिमांड करे थे, peasants उन्हें टैक्स पे ही नहीं कर पाते थे, right? And artisanal production was in decline. वो भी खत्म हो रहा था. Agriculture cultivation जो था वो collapse हो रहा था. Things were going downways, right? Things were going south. Then in 1770, a terrible famine came. This was one of the terriblest famine which has came to India. A terrible famine. Famine का मतलब तो पता है ना हम सबको?
मैम
What is
भुखमरी
famine? सूखा पड़
मैम
जाना,
भुखमरी
सूखा, भुखमरी, राइट? ये मतलब एक फेमाइन हो गया जहाँ पे ना क्रॉप्स हो रहे हैं ना बस खाने को कुछ है. Now this famine killed 10 million people in Bengal. How many?
10 million.
10
million.
10 million people were killed in this famine, and about
That's
one
the
third of the
population
population
of
was
one.
wiped out. मतलब भाग गए थे वहां से. Next,
And they were too bad.
Ma'am, can I read? Ma'am, can I read?
yes, Parag.
Okay, ma'am. The need to improve agriculture. With rural economy on decline, the company officials began to feel the investment in land had to be encouraged and agriculture had to be improved. For all, the company introduced various measures. Parliament settlements. Parliament settlements was introduced by Lord Cornwallis.
God of permanent settlement.
Sorry. Permanent settlements was introduced by Lord Cornwallis in 1793. By the terms of the settlement, the Rajas and Sulukdars were recognized as zamindars. They had asked to collect rent from the peasants and pay revenue to the company. The amount to be paid was fixed permanently. It was
Okay,
felt that
wait
this
here,
would
wait.
ensure a regular flow.
Wait, right? So now the need to improve agriculture. Now, when this famine thing came up, they were like, what is happening? This is not good. So now we need to improve the agriculture. With the rural economy in the decline, the rural economy बिल्कुल खत्म होती जा रही है, then the company feels that they need to invest in the land, right? The investment had to be encouraged and the agriculture had to be improved, right? इसके लिए there came up with 3 measures, right? One was permanent settlement, second was Maharway settlement, and third was the Monroe system. These 3 are the most important topics of this chapter, children. Most of the question would be framed from these 3 topics: the permanent settlement, Maharway settlement, and Monroe settlement. So like system, right? The first is the permanent system, which was introduced by Lord Cornwallis. Maharway was by Holt Mackenzie, and Monroe was by Captain Alexander Reed. Now, in the permanent settlement, it was introduced by Lord Cornwallis in 1793. Have we read the name of Lord Cornwallis somewhere else as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
Ma'am, he introduced civil services in India.
Well done, Ansh. Wonderful, right? He was the one who introduced civil services in India, right? So, by the terms of the settlement, the Rajas and Talukdars were recognized as zamindars. इसके according Raja और Talukdar से they were just looking like they were just serving as a zamindar, and they had to collect rent from the peasants and pay revenue to the company. इन लोग का काम था कि peasants से rent collect करें और company को revenue pay करें, right? They were asked, the amount was to be paid in fixed permanently, right? कितना amount pay करना है उन्होंने permanently fix करना है, permanently have to pay this much amount. It was felt that this will ensure a regular flow of revenue, at the same time encourage zamindars to invest in improving the land. इसमें मतलब ये revenue का flow भी बना रहेगा और zamindar से वो अपने उसमें invest भी करेंगे. But yeah, so the revenue demand of the state, right? So the revenue of the demand of the state was not increased The rectangular, the zamindars would now benefit in increased production from the land. Right? They would get now more production from the land. System was fine, not bad, but there was some limitation of the system as well. I request everyone to keep the cameras on. There are few limitations of the system. Yes, Ihan, read what were the limitations of the system.
Excuse me, ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes, Gaurav.
Ma'am, what are talukdars?
Talukdars were just some other officials appointed by the Rajas to collect revenue.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Read.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, beta.
Ma'am, which were the two crops? Ma'am, were in high demand in 18th century.
Wheat and barley. Wheat and barley.
Yes,
Next
ma'am.
is, what was your question, beta Bahir?
Ma'am, which were the two crops that was high in demand in 18th century?
Wheat and barley.
Okay, ma'am.
Chalo. Right. Next, we have to read the limitations. Kya limitations thi? Govind, read.
Can I read?
First, Govind will read.
Okay, ma'am. Limitations of the system. The company officials fixed a very high rate of revenue. Zamindars found it difficult to pay. Anyone who failed to pay the revenue lost his zamindari. Numerous zamindars were sold off at auctions organized by the company. No zamindar showed any interest investing in the development of land by the first decade of the 19th century. The situation changed. The prices in the market rose and cultivation slowly expanded, but no gain of the company since it could not increase a revenue demand that had been fixed permanently. On the other hand, the cultivators found the system extremely oppressive. The rent they paid to zamindars were high, and their right on the land was increased. To pay the rent, had to often take a loan from moneylender, and when he failed to pay the rent, he was evicted from the land he had cultivated from generations.
Okay, well done. Right, so ऐसे देखो ये क्या होता है देखो हाँ. So when we spoke
Hello.
of the limitations, hello, yeah, kid. When we spoke of the limitations, in the very
Ma'am,
first
you were not.
limitation, am I audible, everyone?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So when we spoke of the limitation, the very first was that the officials fixed a way in the rate of revenue. They fixed that okay, this much revenue is to be paid every year. But as we know, agriculture or cultivation of crops is a very unpredictable job. You did not know in which year you get good crops. Sometime your crop could be eaten away by pests. Sometime the rain could be more or less, right? So anyone who failed to pay the revenue lost his zamindari. कोई भी जमींदार अगर रेवेन्यू पे नहीं कर पाएगा तो उसकी जमींदारी उससे ले ली जाएगी एंड numerous जमींदारीज are sold off in auctions by the organized register like by the organized by the company और काफी ऐसे होता है जहाँ पे कोई टैक्स नहीं पाया उन जमीनों को उन्होंने ऑक्शन करके उस ऑक्शन में they sell it to the highest bidder the ones who bid the highest would get the land it was like that then no zamindars could showed away any interesting Right? So koi zamindar was not taking any interest in investing in the improvement of land. They were not worried about improving land, right? They were just worried about their own profit. The prices in the rows and cultivation निकल के कितना कमाया किया वो किया. So the prices in the same rows have risen to agriculture, right? So yeah, but no Zamindar showed any limitations in investing in, and they did for the first decade, and the situation changed. The prices in the market rose, and cultivation slowly expanded. Prices बढ़ रहे थे, और cultivation expand होने लगा था, right? But there was no gain for the company since it could increase the revenue demand that had been fixed permanently. अब अगर प्रोडक्शन बढ़ भी रहा था तो कंपनी चाहकर भी ज्यादा रेवेन्यू डिमांड नहीं कर सकती क्योंकि कंपनी ने ही तो रेवेन्यू फिक्स है. अब आपने जितना फिक्स किया आपको उतना ही लेना पड़ेगा. कम है तो कम लो, ज्यादा है तो ज्यादा लो. यू कैन नॉट डिमांड मोर. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Somehow they were trapped in their own trap. Now, on the other hand, the cultivators found a system extremely oppressive. Cultivators को ये system बहुत ही oppressive लगता था यार ये क्या है, what is this, right? The rent they have to pay to zamindar was high and the rights of the land was insecure, right? To pay the rent he has to take a loan from the money lender. अब ये रेंट पे करने के लिए लोन लेना पड़ता है. अगर वो लोन नहीं पे कर पाए, राइट, या रेंट नहीं पे कर पाए तो उनके ही लैंड से निकाल दिया जाता था. लैंड वाज एविक्टेड एंड उस लैंड को बेच दिया जाता था, राइट? Next, have you understood the permanent settlement system? Yes, Govind.
Ma'am, I was
Yes,
saying
ma'am.
that I have read, ma'am, I studied that in the Britishers, they take the land revenue by seeing the data, like seeing the land what was cultivated.
हाँ, so that is how they collected revenue ना, कि मतलब अलग अलग systems के through किया था. ये तो पहले तो permanent fix कर दिया था. Now you will see that they have changed it. Right, now let's read the Mahalwai system. Read, Daksh, read.
Second, the Mahalwari system. After analyzing the limitation of the permanent system, many of the company's officials were convinced that the system of revenue had to be changed again. In the northern western provinces of the Bengal presidency, most of this area is now Uttar Pradesh. An Englishman called Holt Mackenzie
Holt Mackenzie.
Holt Mackenzie devised the new system which came to effect in 1822. He felt that village was an important social institution in the North Indian society and needed to be preserved. Under his direction, collectors went from village to village inspecting the land, measuring the field, and recording the custom and right of different groups. The estimated revenue of each plot within the village was added up to calculate the revenue of each village Mahal had to pay. This demand was to be revised periodically, not permanently fixed. The charge of collecting the revenue and paying it to the company was given to the village headman rather than the zamindar. This system came to be known as Mahalwali settlement.
Okay, thank you, beta. Right, now Daksh just read and told us about the Mahalwai settlement. Which settlement?
Mahalwari.
Mahalwari
अब ये
settlement.
क्या था?
Mahalwali.
Now, after analyzing the limitation of the permanent settlement, we realize कि यार permanent settlement में तो काफी सारी limitations आ रही हैं, दिक्कतें आ रही हैं. Now let us introduce some new rules. So they came up with the Mahalwai settlement. Now many of the company officials were convinced that the system of revenue had to be changed again. मतलब कि अब तुम्हें system change करना पड़ेगा. क्यों? क्योंकि permanent system was not being very fruitful for them. देन द नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न प्रोविंसेस, जिस बैंक कंपनी ने क्या किया बंगाल प्रेसिडेंसी में, जो कि अब आता है आपके उत्तर प्रदेश वाले एरिया में, वहां पर उन्होंने एक इंग्लिश मैन, उसका नाम था होल्ट मैकेंजी, उससे कहा कि आप एक नया सिस्टम बनाओ एंड पुट इनटू इफेक्ट फ्रॉम 1822. हाँ जी आर्यन. अभी रुक जाइए, वेट. ठीक है, सो उन्हें लगा था विलेज बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन है इंडियन सोसाइटी का एंड हमें इसे बचा के रखना चाहिए. अंडर द डायरेक्शंस कलेक्टर्स वेंट फ्रॉम विलेज टू विलेज इंस्पेक्टिंग द लैंड, measuring the fields and recording the costumes of the Britishers, right? So
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes,
Ma'am, can I rejoin?
yes,
Okay, ma'am.
right, okay. So अब देवर लाइक हमें से बचा के रखना चाहिए. तो इसी टाइम पे जो कलेक्टर्स में गए, गांव में गए, उन्होंने वहाँ की डिटेल्स लिखा सब कुछ एंड द राइट्स ऑफ डिफरेंट ग्रुप्स एंड देन द ट्राई एस्टिमेटेड रेवेन्यू ऑफ ईच प्लॉट विद इन अ विलेज वाज एडेड अप टू कैलकुलेट द रेवेन्यू ऑफ दैट ईच महल हैड टू पे, राइट. जब अब क्या था, हर विलेज से पूरा टैक्स कलेक्ट करते थे, ऐसा नहीं इंडिविजुअल लेंगे. हर लैंड देख रहे हैं वहाँ पे कितना कितना लैंड है, क्या है, दे नीड द टैक्स फ्रॉम द एंटायर विलेज टुगेदर, राइट. Now the demand was to revise periodically. कितना टैक्स लेंगे वो हर महीने 2 महीने बाद वो रिवाइज करेंगे, राइट. एंड द चार्ज ऑफ कलेक्टिंग रेवेन्यू एंड yeah and yes, right. So they demanded this to be changed. The change of collecting revenue and paying it to the company was given to the village headman. अब ये village headman का काम था कि उसे क्या करना है कि उन्हें या रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करके जमींदार से लेके देना है सब किसको. हाँ, कि अब जमींदार काम नहीं करेगा. अब पहले तो जमींदार कलेक्ट कर रहा था, नाउ जमींदार कौन कलेक्ट करेगा. नाउ द विलेज हेडमैन will collect the revenue and he will collect the revenue of the entire mahal. The entire mahal refers to the entire village. That is what would be known, it was known as the Mahalwari settlement, right. But इसमें भी कुछ दिक्कत आई, उसके उन्होंने एक नया सिस्टम इम्प्रोवाइज किया, that was the Munro system, जिसे हम कहते हैं रिवाइज सिस्टम as well. वाहिद रीच.
The Monroe system. In these British territories in the south, there was similar move away from the idea of a permanent settlement. The new system that was devised came to be known as the Ryotwar or Ryotwari. It was tried on small scale by Captain Alexander Red in some of the areas that were taken over by the company after the wars with Tipu Sultan, subsequently developed by Thomas Munro in 1820. This system was gradually extended all over South India. Reed and Munro felt that in the South there were no traditional zamindars. The settlement, they argued, had to be made directly with the cultivation lords who had tilled the land for generations. Their fields had to carefully and separately survive. Before the revenue assessment was made, Munro thought that the British should act as paternal father figures protecting the riots under their charge.
Okay, thank you so much, beta. Right. So Monroe system क्या था? In the British territories in the south, there was a similar move away from the idea of the permanent settlement. Right. जो Britishers की territory south में थी, वो उन्हें मिल रहा था कि यार permanent settlement is not doing very good to us. Let's introduce something new. So in the south, they introduced the Monroe system, which we know as the Ryotwar system as well. So this new system was devised, came to be known as the Ryotwar or Ryotwar system. Okay. So here what they did is, now it was tried on a very small scale by Captain Alexander Reed, right? In some of the areas that were taken away by the company after Tipu Sultan. टीपू सुल्तान के बाद जो कंपनी एरियाज ये थे, उनमें से कुछ एरियाज पे कैप्टन अलेक्जेंडर रीड ने पहले ट्राई किया. Subsequently, later it was developed by Thomas Munro in 1820, and it was gradually extended to all over the South India. In all the southern territories of Britishers in India, the tax collection was done on the basis of the Munro system. Reed and Munro, Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro, they felt that in the South there were no traditional zamindars, right? And the settlement, they argued, had to be made directly with the cultivators. Now they have to directly made a contact with the cultivators, जिन्हें वो riots बोलते थे, who had tilled the land for generations. जो सालों से इस land पे crops grow करते आ रहे हैं. Their fields had to be carefully and separatively surveyed before the revenue assessment was made. रेवेन्यू सिस्टम करने से पहले हमें उनकी जो फील्ड्स हैं उनको अच्छे से सर्वे करना चाहिए कि क्या फर्टाइल है, कितना क्रॉप होता है, क्या होता है, And Munro thought that the British should act as paternal father figures, protecting the riots under their charge. मतलब इनका मानना था कि जो ब्रिटिशर्स हैं उन्हें riots को protect करना चाहिए उन्हें और exploit नहीं करना चाहिए, right? But the Britisher failed to do that. समझ में आया यहाँ तक?
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
वंश महाजन? Right. Next, देखो यहाँ पे दे रखी है comparative study of system between the British. It's very nice. With the help of this study, you can learn all the three very easily. Then the crops for Europe, right? So the British also realized that the countryside could not only yield revenue, but it also provide raw material for the agro-based industry of Europe. Agro-based industry means?
What, ma'am?
Agro-based industry का मतलब क्या हुआ?
Ma'am, indigo.
Yeah, agro-based. What is the agro-based industry? Ansh, you tell. See here.
Agriculture-based
Well
industries.
done, Ansh. Right? See, I know you would be able to answer. So, it was agriculture-based, right? Now, by the late of the 18th century, the company was trying to best to expand the cultivation क्योंकि ये तो उन्हें फायदा देगा, right? क्यों? क्योंकि अब वो क्या कर सकते हैं, यहाँ से इनसे टैक्स तो ले रहे हैं, इनसे वही क्रॉप्स ग्रो करवाएंगे जो इनकी इंडस्ट्रीज में रिक्वायर्ड है, right? So they started trying to expand the cultivation of opium. Opium is a drug, right? Indigo, that's a blue ink. Jute, cotton, etc., which were in high demand in the international market, right? ये comparative study पढ़ लेना, हाँ जी.
Ma'am, that time indigo's, ma'am, the Indian indigo was best in quality.
It was best in quality, but it was not good for the farmers because indigo is a crop which once grow in a area.
Ma'am, land use it, ma'am, fertility gone.
The fertility
land
goes, the
fertility
fertility
gone.
becomes zero, right? That's why it's not. I think you have a break after this, kids.